What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us today. We're going to be talking all about how to build, grow, and scale your virtual team. And so by virtual team, we're talking about talent that's not necessarily sitting at your office, talent that may not even be in the United States. And this is something that we've got some virtual talent in our business, but we've got a mostly bricks and mortars agency. We've got an office in Miami. We've got 30 full-time employees. And so I know a lot of agencies really aspire to have the virtual lifestyle, be able to tap into a lower cost, right, of fulfillment. And so I was scouring the globe for the very best in managing, growing, scaling virtual teams. And I was fortunate to connect with Nathan Hirsch, who a lot of you guys know from FreeUp. He now runs OutsourceSchool.com. And this is like his area of expertise, like building, growing, managing virtual teams. I've been through a lot of his deep dive trainings and know that it is world class. And so I'm super excited to have Nathan with us today. Thank you so much, Nathan.
Yeah, thanks for being here. It was awesome to be connecting with you earlier this year. And I appreciate you being a member of Outsource School, which is awesome. And I'm glad you've enjoyed the content. And hopefully we can cram a lot of information the next hour. I tend to talk pretty quick, so hopefully we can get a lot in.
Yep, absolutely. So let me share my screen. I'm going to do a little bit of an overview, and then I'm going to hand it off to Nathan to run with it from there. You guys should all be seeing my screen. It should say how to build and scale, manage virtual teams. Somebody give me a yes if you're seeing that right now. Perfect. So here's the challenge as it relates to running our digital marketing agency. The problem is, as you grow, like you land a couple of clients, you've got to fulfill for those clients, you've got to continue to retain those clients, and then you've got to also think about growing your own business. You wind up with a lot of balls in the air, right? Lots of things that have to be done and that actually have to be done well. And that can be extremely overwhelming. How many of you guys just put a yes in comments if you feel like there's a lot of balls that you're dealing with, even regardless of the stage in your agency? Whether you're just getting started with your first handful of clients or you've got hundreds of clients like us, yeah, there's lots of balls, right? It's hard to keep up with everything that needs to be done. And what tends to happen is you get super overwhelmed, right? Overwhelmed with, oh man, I don't know what I need to do for this client or these clients or what I should be doing for myself. They're just in marketing yourself. There's hundreds of tasks that you need to do. And when you take the responsibility of marketing for your clients, those all need to be done, and they need to be done efficiently. They need to be done well. Otherwise, clients would cancel, right? And there's nothing more painful than putting all of the energy out there to call clients, go through sales processes, get the yes, get them on board, get excited, and then have them 3, 6, 5 months down the road say, this didn't work out. I didn't like the results. How many of you feel like one of the most painful things in this business is client cancellations? Yeah, 100%. Me too. I take it very, very personally, right? And that hurts from a revenue perspective. It hurts from a personal pride perspective. But the other place it can really hurt is in your reputation, right? Because I'm instructing most of you guys to focus niche specific, right? We only work with plumbing companies. You might only work with dentists or roofers or whatever. And while that's wonderful, being niche focused, in growing your business and making things easier and simplifying. And it also makes it easier because when you do great work, the word spreads fast. You get known as the go-to expert in a very small vertical. But that sword can cut both ways, right? If you get clients canceling because you failed to perform, or worse, you dropped balls, you didn't follow through on things you said you were going to do, the negative word can spread really fast too, right? So it's mission critical that you've got clear processes and systems, and you've got a team to help you get this stuff done so you don't wind up with client cancellations. You don't wind up with balls dropped, which is going to ultimately tarnish your reputation. But I think the biggest challenge and the biggest reason it's essential that you get systems and procedures in place when you start to think about scaling your virtual team is because if you don't, and if you try and do it all yourself, you won't be able to focus on continuing to grow the business. You'll be so busy in the minutia and the follow through and all of the little things that need to be done, you won't be able to continue to grow and scale. How many of you maybe are in this place right now? Like you're just in this cycle of doom, right? You'll get some clients and then you'll do your best to serve those clients, and that takes you off of your growth path. So you've got to go back once that client cancels and go get some new ones. This is the case for most agencies that can't really get out of let's call it the struggle phase in their business, less than $50,000 per month in recurring revenue. So I got a lot of yeps coming in. So yeah, here's the reality, right? If you can't figure out how to get all those balls caught or hit correctly, you're going to lose clients, you're going to hurt your reputation, and you're going to wind up stressed out without the ability to grow and scale your business. So this is mission critical. Regardless of where you're at in your business right now, whether you're client 1 or client 50 or beyond, you have to figure out how you're going to get the work done, how you're going to scale as you grow, so that really you can knock it out of the park for your clients. And so really what I think the opportunity is, and why I brought Nathan on today, is because we want to make sure we've got the plan to scale. Okay, as we get to 10, 15, 20 clients, here's the positions we're going to need. Here's how we're going to get that work done efficiently and well to really maximize our profitability. We're going to think about how to systematize things so we're not reinventing the wheel from one client to the next, but where things just get done because there's systems, there's procedures, and there's SOPs in place. So you can hand it off and know that it's getting done correctly. So you can build a team, and like the beauty of a virtual team is you can have lots of talent without breaking the bank, without massively impacting your profitability. And most importantly, in my mind, is to be able to consistently knock it out of the park for your clients. Right? The very most important thing you need to do in your agency is do what you say, get your clients tremendous results, and that's where having a team and these systems and procedures are so important. Because when you knock it out of the park for your clients, they stay, they refer you to others, and your business will have consistent momentum and growth. And so that's my preamble. I always like to start with why. Like, why are we having this session? Is this an important priority for you to focus on right now in your business? I think without question that it is. So I just want to hear from you guys real quick. Why is learning how to scale? Why is learning how to build a virtual team important to you? Post those in comments for me. That way, this is to kind of check yourself in, right? When you check yourself in, this will make you pay more attention and get more value from what Nathan's about to share. So a couple of you guys in comments, don't hesitate. Why is this important? Why did you come on today's session? And while you're typing that in, I'm going to hand this off to Nathan so that he can take the ball and run with it from here. Awesome. But without further ado, Nathan, again, so pumped to have you with us. So excited about what you're about to share.
Yeah, and thanks. I think it's extremely important that people understand the why as well. So that was super helpful. So here we are. Today is all about how to scale your business with remote teams. I will do a super quick background about myself, just so you know why I'm here to talk about remote teams. I was a big Amazon seller. I started an Amazon business back when I was in college. I scaled it to over $25 million, and I did that using virtual assistants. The way I got into virtual assistants is I started hiring college kids, and they turned out to not be very reliable. I was 20, 21 at the time. So I pivoted and I went to the Upworks, the Fivers of the world, and I started hiring virtual assistants there. I had no hiring process. I made hundreds of thousands of dollars of mistakes, hours and hours of wasted time. And I did find some good ones here and there, but I always wanted a better, faster marketplace. And when I couldn't find it, I built it myself, and I built a marketplace called FreeUp. Well, the cool thing about FreeUp, and we scaled it from a $5,000 investment to 8 figures, is we had no office. We had no US employees. We had 35 virtual assistants in the Philippines doing everything from customer service to social media to billing. Everything was done by virtual assistants. And when we were acquired at the end of last year, people started reaching out and asking me if I could share how we did it, the exact systems, the exact processes. So I created a company called Outsource School. We'll talk about that later, but that's how I got here, by scaling an Amazon business, by scaling FreeUp, a marketplace, all with virtual assistants. And my new company is also being scaled by virtual assistants. I've been hiring people on FreeUp and building a brand new team. So I'm a big proponent of hiring remote. And I want to pack as much value as I possibly can into the next hour. So basically, we're going to go through 2 things. We're going to go through stuff that you need to do before you even think about hiring a virtual assistant. These are steps that I used to skip back in the day, and then I would always regret skipping them because it would come back to bite me one way or another. Either I would hire for the wrong position, or I wouldn't understand my budget, or I wouldn't hire people with the right type of relationship, which we'll talk about. And then once we go through the steps for before you even think about hiring, I'm going to go through what I consider the 4 main parts of hiring. So that's interviewing, onboarding, which onboarding is the most important thing here, training and managing. I'm not going to have time to do a deep dive into all four, but what I will do is give you the biggest mistake and my biggest takeaway for each of the four. I'm going to make sure I answer as many questions as I possibly can. And then I have a special offer at the end that Josh and I put together for you. So I'm excited for that as well. So I'm going to start off by just going through some of the benefits of hiring a virtual assistant. I mean, if you were a business owner 20 years ago, you had to hire people in your town. You had to hire people maybe in the town around you. You needed an office. You needed high overhead costs. You had to hire people full time. And fast forward to today, you have a lot of flexibility. You can still have the office. Josh has an office. There's nothing wrong with that, but you don't have to. And you can no longer have to hire people in your town. You can hire people all over the world at different skill sets, different price points, and you can hire people for part-time or full-time or project-based. You have that flexibility to hire people as you need them. You can even build a Rolodex of different service providers that you go to at different times. So you get a lot more flexibility as a business owner, and you get access to just a lot more talent than before. And I think we've already seen this if anyone's been following the news with Facebook saying, hey, we're going to start hiring remote. We're going to start hiring people all over the world. It gives them access to a lot more talent and at different price points. You can also use time zone to your advantage. We live in a day and age where businesses just run 24/7, whether you like it or not. Most online businesses do. And coming from a place of e-commerce, and I've worked with a lot of marketing agencies, having people that can work when you're sleeping and you wake up to stuff being done, that can be a huge benefit to maximizing every single day. So there's even more benefits than this. I think we've seen with COVID, a lot of people that thought their offices or thought their jobs were secure. It wasn't as secure as they thought they were. And having remote gives you even more flexibility there. But these are the main benefits that I want to focus on right now. I forgot to mention, so make your business more sellable. As someone who just went through a sale, I can tell you that during the due diligence process, they cared about two things. Who are the people I had in place? How long had they been with me? What were they trained on? What were they doing? And what systems and processes did I have in place? Having really good SOPs, standard operating procedures, which we'll talk about before. And we live in a day and age where someone coming to buy your company, they're going to look at the pros of less overhead costs and more flexibility, along with looking at what actual systems and what actually people you have in place. And that can be a huge selling point as well for those of you looking to sell. So I want to go over some of the basics of hiring, because virtual assistants can mean a lot of different things. A lot of people, when they refer to virtual assistants, are talking about anyone that works from home, anyone that works remote. What I like to do is break it down a little bit more. So I break it down into followers, doers, and experts. So followers are $5 to $10 an hour, non-US. They're there to follow your systems, your processes. If you don't have systems and processes, you're really going to struggle to hire those followers. You can't hire someone in the Philippines for $5 an hour and say, go run my Facebook ads. I don't know how to run Facebook ads. That's probably not going to work out too well for you. And when I'm talking about virtual assistants throughout this entire hour, I'm really just talking about the followers. And you're going to work with each of these levels in a different way. The doers, they're the writers, the graphic designers, the video editors. You're not teaching a graphic designer how to be a graphic designer, but they're not consulting with you either. They're there to do that one task at a really high level. And as an agency, you can build up a Rolodex of these specialists. For example, I have 3 video editors, and I don't need 3 video editors full time. None of them work full time for me. When a video editing project comes up, I have 3 people I trust. I go to them. I say, hey, who's available? Whoever can get it done first. We pick a due date, a due time, and I assign it. And you can build out a Rolodex of all these specialists to white label for your clients. You can do a very similar thing with the experts. So experts are high-level freelancers, coaches, consultants. They could be other agencies that you're white labeling, and they're bringing the strategy, the expertise to the table. They're bringing their own systems, their own process to the table. You guys listening right now are agencies. You guys fall into the expert category. Your value add is those systems, those processes, that strategy. And just like you wouldn't hire a follower and say, hey, go run my Facebook ads, I don't know how to do it. People wouldn't hire an agency like you guys and tell you step by step exactly what to do and train you on their systems and their process. That doesn't make sense either. So each of these levels you're working with and you're collaborating in a different way. And it's important as you're going through the hiring process that you're thinking to yourself, hey, do I need a follower? Do I need a doer? Do I need an expert? and that you're working with them accordingly. And that right there is going to improve your success, because where a lot of entrepreneurs go wrong is they'll hire a doer and an expert and try to train them and force them to do it their way, or they'll hire a follower without systems, without processes. So step number one is focusing on what level you need and working with that level the right way. And as an entrepreneur, you're probably going to need all three levels at some point. A lot of you listening right now can start off with the followers and maybe add some of those other levels down the line. So a starting point for me, and Connor, my business partner, and I, we do this every single quarter. We create two lists. The first list is everything that I do on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis. And I'll prioritize that list from easiest to hardest. And I'll assign hours next to that list. This takes me 5 hours a week. This takes me 2 hours a month, 10 hours a week, whatever it is, with the whole goal of relocating your hours. Step one for hiring virtual assistants is figuring out, how do I take 5 hours a day that I'm spending on something repetitive and shift that towards sales, marketing, expansion. And slowly you're going to get better at hiring. You're going to be able to take more of those hours and relocate them. But the way you do it is by creating that list, prioritizing it from easiest to hardest, and starting at that top of the list and chipping away at it. Now, if you're like me and you've been an entrepreneur for a while, there's another way to organize the list. I tend to organize the list by things I hate doing the most, because what's the point of being an entrepreneur for 10 years if you're doing stuff you don't like to do? But if you've never hired VAs before, I recommend starting with whatever the easiest thing is on that list. The second list is everything that we do on a month-to-month basis that we're just not good at. Now, the average entrepreneur, the average agency owner has a core competency of 1 to 3 things. If you have a business partner, maybe he has 1 or 2 things, you have 1 or 2 things, and that's great, and you can divide and conquer. But we end up doing a lot of things that we're not good at. And while you can spend the next 6 months learning how to build a website or learning Facebook ads, at some point, that's just not a good use of your time. You can't become an expert in every single thing. So what I recommend doing is focusing on getting great at what you're good at instead of getting good at what you're bad at. And by creating this list of these things you're not good at, that's where the doers and the experts come in, where you can hire someone to just hit the ground running without having to train them to handle that task or to white label it for your client. So that's the 2 lists you create, everything you do on a day-to-day basis, everything that needs to get done that you're not good at. Today, we're going to focus on that first list and hiring virtual assistants. So one of the common things that I saw with people that had issues in the past when I was seeing them hire virtual assistants is they'd hire someone and then a month later they'd realize, oh, I can't really afford this person, but they already invested time, energy, and money. And yeah, they can always get the money back, but they can't get the time back. And so I really encourage you to spend time setting a VA budget. We have a free VA budget calculator you're welcome to use. You can do the math yourself, but you have to keep in mind the average virtual assistant is going to be in that $5 to $10, maybe $5 to $8 an hour range. Usually if they're doing phone calls, they might be in that $8 to $10 an hour range. I like to over budget a little bit. So if I plan on hiring a VA for $5 an hour, maybe I'll calculate it with 6 or 7, because some weeks, maybe they work 45 hours a week instead of 40. Maybe I give them a raise or a bonus. So I like to overestimate a little bit. And then you want to figure out, how much money do you consistently make every single month? Maybe you take a 3, 4, 5 month average. And once you understand how much money you make every single month, then you figure out, how aggressive do you want to be? How aggressive in hiring do you want to be? If you're trying to go all out to build this agency as fast as you possibly can, hiring and investing in people is a great way to do it. But maybe you're investing 40 to 60% of your profits into hiring. If you're more conservative and we're all in a different place in our life, in our business, maybe it's 10 to 15%. I tend to be more in that 20 to 30% range. I invest 20 to 30% of my profits back into hiring. So once you understand how much a VA on average costs, you understand how much profit you make a month, you figure out how aggressive you want to be. That's going to let you know how many virtual assistants can you afford right now. Can you afford 1 full-time VA, 1 part-time VA? Maybe you can afford 4 full-time VAs right now. But understanding that is incredibly important. So you understand the different levels. We've gone through the list. We're setting the VA budget. Here's a link to the VA calculator if you want to check that out. And Josh, I'll let you jump in if you have anything before I keep going.
No, keep pressing forward. I'll make sure to get this link out to everybody after.
Cool. So I want to go through some of the mistakes in the hiring process. And remember, I'm breaking this down into interviewing, onboarding, training and managing. So for interviewing, I have what we call our CARE process. And CARE stands for communication, attitude, red flags, and experience. Now, where most entrepreneurs go wrong is they're vetting people just for experience. I see this all the time. You hire someone with 5 years of WordPress experience or 5 years of customer service experience, and then it blows up in your face down the line, and you're sitting there wondering, how is someone with so much experience that was so talented just not a good fit for my business? How come that didn't work out? And that makes you frustrated because you're like, oh, if that person's talented and that didn't work out, I can't really hire people anymore. Who can I trust? And the reason for that it didn't work out is because you're just focused on experience. You're just focused on skill. You're not looking for that trifecta of skill, attitude, and communication. Now, with skill, you don't need every hire, especially a virtual assistant, which is a follower. You don't need them to be a 10 out of 10. They can be a 6 out of 10 or 5 out of 10 or 3 out of 10. I'm just talking about skill. But what you do care about is that they're honest about what they can and cannot do. For attitude, you want people who are positive, people who are the more professional man, the more professional woman. If they're dealing with your clients, we all know that not all clients are rainbows and butterflies. If your client blows up or says something offensive, you want a VA that can be more professional. You want a VA that can be positive, that can interact with people on your team, that brings their A game and positivity every single day, that doesn't get aggressive when things don't go their way. And communication is really the thing that ties it all together, because it doesn't matter how experienced your virtual assistant is. It doesn't matter if they have the best attitude in the world. If you can't communicate with that virtual assistant day in and day out, nothing matters. And that's why I recommend doing interviews with virtual assistants. And I like to hire most of my VAs from the Philippines, but I like to do my interviews via Slack. I don't do video interviews for 2 reasons. One, they tend to be a little bit more shy on video, and I would have missed out on a lot of really great VAs that just weren't good on camera. But most importantly, I'm not doing video interviews all the time, or I'm not doing videos all the time. I'm communicating with them mostly on Slack, mostly on email. So when I'm interviewing them, I want to go through in the same channel that I'm going to be communicating with them on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis. And I want to see, hey, can they respond quickly? Can they understand what I'm saying? Can I understand what they're saying? Are they answering the questions directly? So all that goes into communication, and that's really that trifecta that you're looking for.
Hey, now, Nathan, I thought that was a really cool insight when you shared it the first time I heard it. You're talking about a literal Slack chat back and forth, not a Slack call. Because when you communicate with the VA, for the most part, it isn't you talking to them on the phone. It's you chatting back and forth.
Yes, correct. And if you're someone that just likes seeing people in person, you want to see if they're a real person, that's fine too. You can do a 5-minute call at the end of the interview. But in my 10 years of hiring VAs, we've done all of our interviews, all of our onboarding. We used to use Skype. Now we use Slack. Doesn't matter what channel you use, but some messaging software where you can see how quick they can respond and how well they can understand what you're saying and vice versa.
Good stuff.
And we do have a little bit stacked against us as entrepreneurs, just interviewing people in general. And this goes for hiring US people too. I mean, I once took a college class that just taught me how to interview well. It didn't teach me how to do any particular job well. It just taught me how to answer interview questions. So as an entrepreneur, and this was one of the big mindset shifts I went through back in the day, stop looking for the correct answers because everyone can give you that fluff, and start looking for what I consider red flags. What is this person saying that shows me they don't have the experience they say they do, they don't have the attitude that I want my company, or they can't communicate in the level that I need them to be able to communicate? That should be your entire mentality during the interview. And when those red flags come up, you want to dive deeper into those red flags and pull them up. So that's really my advice on interviewing. Again, we don't have enough time to go through that full CARE process. We offer that more in Outsource School, but that's the biggest mistakes that I see. Now, onboarding. And if you take anything away from the hour, this is the part right here, because this is what entrepreneurs mess up the most. I would say most entrepreneurs understand that you need to interview a virtual assistant. Most entrepreneurs understand that you need to train a VA, and most entrepreneurs understand that on some level you have to manage them. And I see some questions coming in. I'll do the questions at the end. So most entrepreneurs forget that you need to onboard them. And I'll give you guys an example. Let's say you interview 3 virtual assistants. You want to hire Jane. You want to hire Jane at $5 an hour. The average entrepreneur will say, Jane, that was a great interview. Remember, we just did the CARE interview process. I want to hire you at $5 an hour. Let's start training on Monday. And they jump right into training. What I teach people to do and what I encourage you to do is to have a meeting in between interviewing and in between training. So what I do is I say, Jane, that was a great interview. I want to hire you at $5 an hour. But before we do anything, first, let's make sure that you're actually good with $5 an hour. I want to know what your other clients are paying you, what you think you're worth. Are you really happy with $5 an hour? Assuming that they are, then I'm going to go over bonuses and raises, because I don't want someone to start at $5 an hour and think that they're going to be making 10 by the end of the year if I'm only giving a 50-cent raise every 6 months, every year. So I'm going to say, hey, you can expect a 50-cent raise every 6 months. If the business grows, maybe it goes up to $1. And I give bonuses out every 6 months, every year, whatever it is. I know someone's question was about bonus and raises. I'll tell you what I do towards the end. But you want to establish whatever your bonus, whatever your raise program is. And if they're not okay with that, that's fine. You want them to back out during the onboarding process before you jump into training. So you've gone over rate, you've gone over bonuses, and then you're going to go over what I call my SICK method. And that's SICC. Schedule, issues, communication, and culture. Pull these up. And this is a 20 to 40 minute conversation. It's the best 20 to 40 minute investment you can make in your hiring process. It's not a 4-hour conversation, but for schedule, I'm going to go through what her schedule is with me. Hey, maybe it's a graveyard shift. It's 9 to 5. There are 12-hour time difference. Have you ever worked graveyard shift before? Is there any reason for you to believe that you're going to have issues with that? I don't want them to be experimenting, working through the night with me as their first client doing it. What other clients do you have? What are your schedules for those clients? Is there any overlap? What are your hours for those clients? Maybe the VA is already working 100 hours a week and adding my 20 hours puts her to 120. I want to establish all that stuff up front. And I want to establish that they can't be working 2 clients at the same time, that, hey, if they're working 60 hours with me and another client, that they're not going to take additional clients elsewhere. And then I go into issues. And there's 5 different issues that I go over. I go over personal issues, internet, power, computer, and weather. And for all these issues, there's really 3 things I care about. 1, I want to know how often they have these issues. How often you lose internet? How often do you have a personal issue? 2nd, I want to know, what is the backup plan? If you lose internet, do you have a backup internet? Do you have a friend's house you can go to, a cafe, or can you just not work until the internet comes back? And then lastly, I want to set up that communication, no matter what the issue is, has to be right away. If you lose power, you need to find a way to send me an email, find me a way to contact someone on the team. I can't just go 4 days without hearing from you. You have to have a way to at least send us a message and know what's going on. And some VAs might say, sorry, I can't do that. And those are VAs you want to avoid. And you're going to be happy that you went through this during the issues process. And you're going to come across other red flags too. Maybe they have 5 kids and it's just them and 5 kids. And the second anything happens with their kid, there's no one else to handle it. And that could be a red flag as well. So you want to go through all 5 of those issues and set those expectations there of strong communication, having a backup plan. Now, I also let the VA know that I'm a very reasonable person. If they have a personal issue and they need a day or 2 off, totally fine. I'm the first person to say, like, go deal with your stuff. We'll be all right. But a personal issue can't last weeks at a time and interrupt business. So there's a difference. Next is communication. Now, I mentioned I use Slack. I also use email. I expect them to be on Slack when they're working all the time. I expect them to respond to emails within a business day. I expect them to have Viber or WhatsApp on their phone. That's for emergencies. And I go through whatever software I use. I personally don't believe in using Time Doctor. I think it hurts the relationship, or any kind of screen capture software. But if you want to use it, which could be your own personal preference, that's fine. You want to establish that now. Don't train them and then be like, oh, by the way, I need you to use Time Doctor. I've seen clients do that, because the VA is going to say something like, oh my God, I wouldn't have taken this job if you had just let me know that up front. So whatever software you use, whatever you care about in communication, if you hate email and you never want the VA to send you an email ever, this is the time that you establish that. And then culture, you should figure out what your company culture is. And if you have a US team, your VA culture should really match it, because they're going to be working together. I care about ideas. I care about feedback. I care about people being positive and wanting to work as a team and having long-term visions. So whatever that culture is, make sure that you're hiring people for that culture, but also set that expectation that you don't put up with drama, and that no matter how good they are on a talent side, if they don't fit the company culture, it's not going to work out. So I've gone through with them the rate, I've gone through bonuses and raises, I've gone through schedule issues, communication, culture. I've given them a chance to ask questions. Lastly, I give them a chance to back out, because I would much rather they back out, and I do this very nicely, if it's not a fit. If my expectations are too high, if they don't think they can go without having those issues, whatever it is, that's fine, because I'd much rather they back out now than to back out 2 months down the line. And almost all the issues you hear about hiring VAs in the Philippines, where they disappeared, their power went out, they had 100 sick grandmothers, whatever it is, almost all of that can be prevented by spending extra time on the onboarding. And what ends up happening is once you've onboarded your VAs in the same level and you start building a team of VAs, the VAs will hold each other accountable, especially when you get team leaders and other team leaders, because they all went through that same onboarding process where you don't put up with issues that impact long-term. So the second someone tells you that they had a power outage, but they don't go to their backup spot or whatever it is, the other VAs hold them accountable. And because you've had all these conversations via Slack, if the VA says, hey, I have a backup generator, they lose power, they disappear for 3 days, you have a screenshot where they confirm they would contact you right away, and they said they had a backup generator, and you could say, hey, we already talked about this, what happened, instead of a he said, she said of a call from 6 months ago. So all of that is there for you. Any questions, or Josh, you want to jump in before I go into training?
I think this is great. A couple of questions were, I mean, I don't know if you want to address it right now, why Slack versus Skype?
It's funny. I was a big Skype user. I used Skype for the 4 years of FreeUp. And when FreeUp was acquired, the first thing they did was take everyone off Skype and put it on Slack. So when I started Outsource School, I started on Slack. I was like, all right, I want to see what this is all about. And now I will never go back to Skype again. It's just a lot faster. It's a lot smoother. It's more of a personal preference. There's no right or wrong. I also sent a ton of Skype messages. So here and there, they would like lock me out of my account, which was really frustrating. And you don't have to put up with that with Slack. So those are the basic reasons.
I like Slack too, and it's more of a closed network where someone can have 1,000 friends on Skype. They're really in the company network on Slack for the most part.
The only bad thing about Skype or about Slack, which I liked about Skype, is with FreeUp, we had freelancers, but we also had clients, and the clients had Skype accounts. So it was easy to like communicate with the clients and match them up with the freelancers for easy communication. So that's why I used it at FreeUp. But I would say for most companies, I would use Slack.
Yeah. Chris Haas asking about Discord. Are you familiar?
The attitude.
No, Discord. I'm not sure. Discord, maybe that's another communication platform.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. No, we don't know anything about it. Me neither. Can you talk a little bit about how to pay the people in the Philippines? So they're using PayPal or TransferWise or something, and I'll let you get right back to it. These are just some good questions that came in.
Yeah, I use Payoneer. Payoneer's a good one. The cool thing about Payoneer, so PayPal charges like 3% on all transactions. The way Payoneer sets it up is it costs the VA $3 every time they withdraw money. So if they wait a month to withdraw money, it just costs them $3. So what I usually like to do is ask the VA the way they like to get paid, but I also hire people through FreeUp. So I pay via FreeUp, and then they pay them via Payoneer. So that's how I do it. TransferWise, I believe, has lower fees than PayPal. It really comes down to the fees and I guess a little bit of the protection. But from my side, I kind of go with the mentality that once I send the VA money, that's it. I'm not getting the money back. I'm not trying to start any disputes or anything like that. So I would focus a little bit more on the fees.
Got it. Thanks for the answers. I think this was really helpful. Todd's asking if you have some kind of checklist that you put together for onboarding VAs.
Yes, we have a whole onboarding training. We have the exact cheat sheet and the questions that we use, and that's part of our program, which I will talk about at the end.
Perfect. Good questions, guys. Thanks for keeping us interactive. Keep posting your questions. This is live, so that's one of the benefits of doing it this way. Go ahead.
Cool. So there's two things that I want to talk about when it comes to training. Valuing your time at the highest possible level and standard operating procedures. Now, what a lot of entrepreneurs do is they hire a VA and they jump into one-on-one training with that VA. And maybe they train the VA a day, maybe they train them a week. And at the end of the week, let's say the VA is doing okay. Then you kind of run into a sticky situation because you've already invested a week into training this person one-on-one. Do you invest another week? Then that might be 2 weeks wasted. Do you start all over? That's a week of your time you won't get back. You can always make more money. You can't get more time back. what I recommend doing, and the way that we do our training, is we have an SOP, we give it to them. For that first hour, that first week, I've had 50-page SOPs at FreeUp. We would give them a 50-page SOP. All they do 8 hours a day for a week is read that SOP, study that SOP, ask questions. And we're there to support them. My team's there to support them. Really doesn't take up any of my time answering a question here or there. And they're studying. And it could be an hour. If you have a very short SOP, that's fine too. Whatever it is, they study it. Then you test them on it. And if they get 80% of it, fantastic. Maybe that helps to improve your SOP a little bit. You would one-on-one train them that last 20%. And then you kind of have a little bit more protection, because if they studied it themselves and they got 80% of it, that's pretty good. If you test them at the end and they only got 30% of it, I pay them for their time, because I believe in paying them for their time, and I part ways nicely. And again, I protected my time, which I value over everything else, and I didn't really take any of my time for them to do it. So try to structure your training so that you're valuing your time at the highest possible level, putting the time on them, paying them for their time, testing them before you invest, you or your team's one-on-one time with them. Second is creating a really good SOP. So what I like to do, and we're actually building some cool SOP software that I'm excited about for our members, but I like to break down SOPs into 3 parts, because most entrepreneurs understand that SOPs are the steps, right? The 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, ABC, whatever it is. And that's all great. But what most entrepreneurs forget is the top and the bottom of the SOP. At the top of my SOPs, I put the why I started this business, why I'm passionate about it, who I'm helping, how this task actually impacts the bigger picture. I'm also going to put in what success and failure looks like. If I just fired 2 virtual assistants, I'm going to put in, not by name, but I'm going to put in these 2 virtual assistants didn't work out for XYZ reasons. This is what I'm looking for in the role. So before they even got into the steps and what the actual task is, they know the why, they know why it's important, why the business is running, and they understand what success and failure looks like. Then they jump into the steps. And then at the bottom, I put all my important reminders. What a lot of people do is they'll hide all the important stuff in like step 10, part B, and the VA misses something. And then the client gets frustrated because the VA missed something that's super important. And then they don't want to hire VAs anymore. Take all your important stuff, put it at the bottom. A good example of this is I have a VA that monitors my inbox. In my important reminders, it says, hey, if my accountant emails me, don't respond to those emails. Let me know about them. Leave them for me. Super important. I put at the bottom. She knows that I care about that the most. So try to break down your SOPs by the why, the steps, and then the important reminders, or what I sometimes call it is the do not do list. Do not respond to those emails for any reason. Do not do this for any reason. And for those of you that are maybe scared hiring a VA for the first time, by listing out all the things that you absolutely do not want them to do, that's going to help you sleep a little bit better at night when you're working with that first virtual assistant. So I have a funny acronym for you, BARF, for the BARF method. And I wish it spelled something different, but the whole point of it is to reduce turnover. I'm a big proponent of doing everything possible to reduce turnover in your business. Turnover kills small businesses. It kills agencies. And at first, I thought money was just the absolute key to reducing turnover. You pay people the most money, they stay with you. And I would actually ask virtual assistants. I had these big group chats of VAs at FreeUp, and I would say, what makes your favorite client? And in my mind, I'm thinking whoever pays the most, right? And almost none of their answers were that. It was all around our BARF method, which I'll talk about in a second. The other thing I want you to keep in mind is there's always going to be a client that can pay more than you. That doesn't mean you should lowball people. You should do your best to pay people in a range that they want, but there's always going to be a client that can pay more money than you. So you trying to keep people around just based on money is going to come back to bite you. What you can do is you can focus on getting them to buy in. You can focus on showing them appreciation. You can focus on building a relationship with them, and you can focus on creating a family environment, especially if you hire people from the Philippines. And this actually came from my favorite virtual assistant, Chicky Ann, who I'm actually the godfather of one of her kids. And I was like, hey, what should I make sure I include in this? And her message was, people in the Philippines are all about family. That's what they care about over everything else. They live with large families. Their churches are family. They have outside communities that are family. So off of that, buying in means telling the virtual assistant why you care about this business, why you started it, who you're trying to help, and how their role affects the business and what their long-term vision is in the company? What can they expect? How are they going to grow with the company? Showing appreciation is not being the client that only talks to the virtual assistant when they mess up or they do something wrong, and saying, hey, that was a great job. I appreciate your hard work this week. Good job on that project. It helped me do X, Y, Z. Building a relationship. I mentioned being the godfather of the kid. That's the extreme. You don't have to do that. But what you should do is get to know their family. What kids do they have? Get to know what movies they like. One reason I like hiring from the Philippines is they consume a lot of the same media, a lot of the same books, a lot of the same movies, video games that we do. Share about you. Connect with them on social media. One of the easiest ways to get to know your virtual assistant. And then create that family environment, just like they have at church and in their house. Create a family environment with your team of VAs. If you have people in the US, make sure that you're encouraging them to interact and build a relationship with the VAs, because when that higher paying job offer comes around, and I promise you at some point, if your VA is an A player, that higher paying job offer is going to come around. If they've bought into your company, if you and your team have showed appreciation, if they have a relationship with you and they consider the team a family, they're not going to want to leave for that client. Or worst case scenario, they're going to say, wow, this client blew me out of the water. I don't want to leave you. Like, what can we do to bridge the gap a little bit and stick around? And that's what you care about. Turnover just destroys companies, and anything you can do to reduce turnover is key. I don't know if you have anything off of that before I keep going.
No, I think it's great. Yeah, it's figuring out ways to really keep them on board and engaged. I thought that was awesome.
Cool. So that's kind of what we went through. We went through the before stuff, the budget calculator, the different levels, the 2 different lists. We went through interviewing, onboarding, training, and managing. I want to talk a little bit about Outsource School, and then I will make sure that I answer all your questions. So Outsource School is an education platform that I created based on, once I sold FreeUp, people started reaching out and asking me if I could teach them my exact systems and processes. So my interview process, the exact questions I ask, my onboarding questions, how I run meetings, my checklist for firing VAs, how I set up team leaders and assistant team leaders. So we created this course called Cracking the VA Code. And when you buy Cracking the VA Code, you get a 1-year membership to Outsource School. So Cracking the VA Code is the fundamentals, but you also get a year access to Outsource School. You get every single course, playbook, SOP that we come out with for the next year. And those SOPs and playbooks are all about operations and all about marketing. There are systems and our processes to hire VAs, to get on podcasts, to do lead generation, to do your bookkeeping, to do your customer service, to do your bookings for you. All of that comes with the program, and we're going to keep rolling out these courses and playbooks every single month. On top of that, we're building this really cool SOP software. We're going to continue to build more and more software and give our members access. You get a year of support. So if you run into questions with VAs, if you need help finding a VA, we are partnered with my old company, FreeUp. We hook people up there. And we are building a community of all entrepreneurs that want to scale their business, want to learn with us through virtual assistants and learn about hiring virtual assistants. So that's really what Outsource School is. And I'm happy to answer any questions there. And those of you that want to connect with me on social media, I love just networking with other entrepreneurs. Or if you have any questions after this, feel free to connect with me.
Yes, I really wanted, I've been through this training. And like I said, you guys members here at 7-Figure Agency, I've given you all of our systems procedures for building our in-house team and how we train and manage that team. But I don't have the depth and breadth of how do we build virtual teams? How do we manage those virtual teams? How do we hire those virtual teams? And so when I went through Nathan's course, I was like, this is a must-have. It's just a no-brainer. And it's not just how to hire and manage and train. He's got specific processes you can hand off to virtual assistants, like he said, on how to get yourself placed on podcasts, how to find opportunities to speak at events. And so, I don't tend to bring on what is a little bit of an affiliate offer, but this, I think, just fits so nicely with what we're doing. I wanted to make sure to make this available to you guys.
Appreciate it. And yeah, I mean, we're really here to support people however we can. And we want to just take our 10 years of experience and teach people all the systems and processes. And we also want to value your time. I mean, we make a lot of videos that you can give to your VA and train them, but you do need the fundamentals. You need to understand how to interview, how to onboard, how to train, how to manage, and hopefully we can save you a lot of wasted hours and time there. And then once you get the fundamentals, then it becomes fun and you can grab different systems, different processes, and get your VAs quickly trained to do them. And now I'm happy to answer any questions people have.
Awesome. Questions, guys? let's see. One of the questions was, do you recommend hiring a VA full-time? If so, would it be hourly? Because you've had some bad experience with hourly people on Upwork.
Yeah, so can't speak for Upwork. I mean, I recommend FreeUp. Obviously, I'm biased, but I actually hire all my VAs there now, which is kind of weird. I'm a client of my own company. But I usually do hire hourly. The reason that I don't do fixed price is it sounds good in theory. It tends to not work out. Because some weeks you might need people 45 hours a week, sometimes just 37. And then sometimes someone needs like a week or two off, and then you're like, oh, am I paying them? Am I not paying them? So what I like to do is just pay them hourly. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll say, hey, here's a fixed price for 40 hours a week. That's what your pay is going to be. But if you go over 40 hours a week, bill me hourly for those additional hours on top. That way, if I'm busy and I'm landing clients and I need them to work that extra 20-hour week, they're happy to do it. They make a little bit extra money, and it kind of saves all that back and forth down the line. But there are plenty of people that hire people fixed price with no problems. That's more of a personal preference of mine.
Excellent. Good answer. Let's see. Daniel's, was it Andy's? Wow, there's a bunch coming in right now. I'm sorry, guys. We'll make sure we answer all of these. But the question was basically, is it legal to use SOPs for contract hires?
Yeah, so for U.S. contract hires, it depends on your state, and I don't want to get too much into the legal role. You really shouldn't be hiring contractors and training them from a legal side in the U.S. That's why I almost never hire U.S. people for that following position. And there's another reason as well outside the legal. Let's say you hire someone in the US for $15 an hour to do your follow roles. That's great. Let's say best case scenario, you train them, they get really, really good at your systems, your processes. Well, how long are they really going to be happy at $15 an hour? Eventually you pay them 18, you pay them 20, eventually you get closer to 25, and then you have a tough choice to make. Are you drastically overpaying for a follower position, or are you starting all over and that's all that time, all that investment that's gone? Where you hire someone from the Philippines, not only do you not have to deal with that legal side of it, but you hire them at $5 an hour. Let's say they work out. They're an A player. They're a rock star. You want to keep them around. Raise them to 7, raise them to 9, raise them to 11. They're going to be with you for life. They're not going anywhere. So it gives you a lot more potential long-term, and I would definitely be careful, and I don't want to talk too much about it because I'm not a lawyer, but consult your own legal team about hiring U.S. contractors and teaching them, training them, providing them your SOPs.
Yeah, good point there. So Alexander Miles is asking, at what point in business do you recommend hiring a VA? Also, what are your thoughts on hiring a full-time versus part-time?
So everyone's in a different spot in their business. I personally like to hire a little bit early. So you're never going to get the day just right? You're not going to be like, oh, I hired someone on exactly the right day. You're either going to hire them too early or too late. And there's a pros and cons to both. Too early, if you haven't proven your business plan enough, maybe you waste some money that you wouldn't have if you had just spent more time mapping out your business. And too late, there's an opportunity cost there. So I would wait until you've talked to your ideal customer, you've talked to your ideal client, maybe you have some revenue coming in, and that's kind of the point where you can start hiring. And again, you don't have to hire full-time. You can hire 5 hours a month. You can hire 2 hours a week. You have that flexibility. My default is, if you can afford it, always jump on the full-time, and I did this recently. I started a VA for 5 hours a week just because we were starting Outsource School. This is like towards the beginning of the year before now we have like 150 members. And I didn't know if people were going to like our first course, hate our first course. So I started off part-time just to get me out of my inbox. The second we started making revenue and people were like, hey, we really like Outsource School, I said, what is it going to take to bring you on full-time? And I actually got lucky because I could have gone to her and she could have said, sorry, I'm booked up. I can't add any hours. So when you can afford it, when you find a VA you like, when you know it's a role, if you're going to hire full-time in 3 months, hire full-time right away, because you don't want a situation where you've invested time and money into someone, you love them, but they're just too full with other clients.
Great answer. So John, what's up? John says, how will Outsource School help if I've got a virtual team that's a physical team that's virtual? So he's got a team of people working at an office in South America, and that's kind of his operations team. Will this help on managing that team at all?
Yeah, I mean, the fundamentals that we teach, like we have one module that's hiring people from the Philippines 101 for people that have never worked with people in the Philippines, which I was back in the day. When I first hired from the Philippines, I didn't even know where the Philippines was on a map. So we have that. But everything else, like our interview process, our onboarding, how we run meetings, our firing checklist, all that can be applied to if you hire a U.S. employee in your office, if you have a team in the Philippines and South Africa, if you have an office, if it's remote, all of that I think can be applied elsewhere. And all the other stuff, those bonus courses, every course you come out with the next year, how to get on podcasts, how to do lead generation, how to do bookkeeping, all of those, if you already have a team, you can grab those SOPs, have them watch the videos and implement all that stuff relatively quickly. And then you can use our methods to level up and build on the system that you already have to make them even better.
Yeah, there's definitely value. I mean, I'm applying a lot of this stuff to our US based team. So it's not like it's only applicable to virtual, to virtual staff.
Right.
Andy's asking, there's 5 personal issues, personal internet, power, weather, and he's missing the 5th. And so he's curious. Computer.
So with computer, you want to make sure they have a newer computer that's fast, and you also want to make sure that they have a backup computer somewhere in their house, because if their computer breaks and they have no other computer, and Philippine computer shops take 2 to 3 weeks, they don't have a way to work with you for 2 to 3 weeks. So they have to have some kind of backup there.
Yeah, that's the one. Do you have a preferred platform for hiring virtual teams?
Yeah, again, I'm biased.
You're going to biased answer here, folks.
Yes, I'm biased. I use FreeUp. I built FreeUp. I love the team at FreeUp. I all those people. I mean, we loved our team so much at FreeUp. We took $500,000 from the sale and gave it to our team in the Philippines and made sure their job was secure and that their bonus and raise programs were all set up and continuing to be there. So I love them. I have connections there if anyone wants it. I also really like the new owners. We were super fortunate that the people that bought us have a long-term vision. They want to honor our relationships, our partnerships. I still talk to them every month or so, and we partner with them with Outsource School. They send people to us and vice versa. So there's that, and there's plenty of other marketplaces and VA agencies, but I would go to FreeUp and I can tell you why. First of all, they pre-vet people before they go on the platform. They have great support. They match you up quickly so you don't get 50 applicants. But me, and I keep in mind, I put this in place, there's a no turnover protection. And I mentioned how turnover kills small businesses. If someone quits on you, so you invest a month into training someone and they quit on you in 6 months, they'll cover that month of the next person. So they have that no turnover protection, which is really nice.
Very cool. Yeah, it's definitely a solid source for quality candidates. Chris Ha, what's up? Great to see you. He's asking, can you give some examples of a good bonus structure for a web designer?
Yeah, so keep in mind a web designer falls more into that doer category more than it does into the follower category. So when you're dealing with a doer, it's more about setting up milestones and due dates than it is about the training and the SOPs. So what I would do is for a web developer, let's say it's a website, I would try to break down that website into parts. And I would try to have those parts increase over time. Let's say it's a 10-page website. I would say do 1 page by this due date and due time, and always put a time in there. It's not due next Tuesday. It's due next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So it's black and white, cut and dry. You get that page back, you give feedback, you give them another due date to hit that feedback, because you want to see, can they actually adjust to my feedback? Because every client wants something different. There's a lot of personal preference there. So once you understand, let's say that they did do that feedback properly, you assign them 2 more pages, 3 more pages, and as you go. And then once you build a relationship with that web designer, just like I have a relationship with my 3 video editors that I go to, I don't have to give them tons and tons of feedback every single time because they already know what I like. I might give them a tweak here or there. The bonus structure that you can set up is either by hitting the due dates faster, if that's something that you care about. If you have clients that, hey, it's a 1-month project and they can get it done in 3 weeks, you give them a bonus there. Or the other way is you just do it by how the company's doing. So if you're building this Rolodex of people for your clients and your agencies, you're doing it by, hey, how my company's growing every quarter, every 6 months, whatever it is. I'm going to give you a bonus that's representative of 2 things. First is your actual work, your performance, your communication, your attitude. And the second is how my agency actually did, so that they're really rooting for you and pulling for you at the same time.
Great answer. Bruce Bertman, what's up? He says he just purchased. Awesome. Glad to have you with us.
Thank you.
Great value. It's a good fit for you for sure. Arvin is asking, you said that white labeling services, you said about white labeling services. Is it possible to apply your method not just to VAs, but also in white labeling services? If so, how can you identify if this is the best fit?
Yes, you can implement parts of it. For example, in the course, we teach you how to make really good SOPs. We have a system and a process for it. That part doesn't apply for white labeling. You're not going to go through an SOP. At the same time, you could tweak that to be like, instead of, hey, this is how we do things step by step, it could be, this is how we interact with clients, or this is how we set due dates, or whatever it is. And there's other parts like the interview, like the onboarding, that you might take 75% of it. And when you're interviewing white label partners, you might want to ask the similar questions. Same thing with meetings. We give you a bunch of different meeting structures. Like one is a weekly meeting, one is a one-on-one meeting, one is a team meeting. So the one-on-one performance meeting probably doesn't apply with your white label partners, although it could if you do that like once a month, but maybe that weekly or monthly meeting, that's what you use there. So a lot of it can, and you can again, take these and tweak them and make them your own and have them apply for your business.
No doubt. What are the legal responsibilities when hiring a VA? Asks Zahir.
So I can only speak for hiring from the Philippines. I think it is, to me, there's, I don't want to give legal advice. I went through this with FreeUp. I had accountants, I had lawyers. To the best of my knowledge, there is no tax obligation or any type of legal responsibilities when you're hiring outside of the country that you are in. And just like FreeUp did it, we didn't invent this. The online jobs, the Upworks, the hundreds of thousands of other agencies that are hiring from the Philippines are doing the exact same thing. So there's no precedent to having to pay taxes or anything like that. Subject to change. You should definitely get your own lawyer, your own accountant. But that's my overall stance on it.
Got it. These are great questions, guys. Keep them coming. Nathan, you're good to keep answering questions as we go?
Yeah, I don't even know what time it is. Yeah, I'm good.
Abigail's asking, how do you keep trust and confidentiality with your VA having access to your email? I think she's talking about you had a VA that was keeping your inbox clean.
So there's two ways to go about hiring an email virtual assistant. The first way, if you're paranoid, you've never hired a VA before, is to set them up with their own email account. And every time you get an email, instead of answering it, you just forward it to them and they respond and BCC you. And when that happens, the worst thing that happens is, let's say they mess up, they tell your client the wrong thing. You just reply all and say, hey, sorry, ignore that. I'm training a new virtual assistant. Here's the correct answer. And it's usually no big deal. What I do is I give my VA access to my email. I set it up so that unread emails are at the top. I set a rule, and I'm actually building a playbook on this very, very soon. I set a rule that any email that's not 100% handled has to be left unread. So all the unread emails are at the top. Once they've handled something, they've booked that podcast, they've responded to it, they mark it as read. And at first, they're just writing drafts. They're not sending the email. So if I have the VA work from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m., I wake up at 7, there's all these drafts in my inbox. I go through one by one. I check them, I send them, I give them feedback so they learn. And then eventually they can go through and not have to send the drafts and actually send them. The other thing that I'll add, and this is more of a Nathan personal preference thing, I never have a VA pretend to be me, because to me that just loses trust with your clients over time. Some clients disagree with me there, but the VA will always say, hey, I'm Nathan's assistant, whatever it is, and hey, I'm covering his inbox. He's sleeping. He's on a meeting, whatever. So that's how I would go about it. There's obviously more to that, but that's the basic setup there.
Yeah, I think you want to just build trust with the VA, and over time, they're acting as your liaison on your email, your social messenger, and stuff like that, and it frees up a lot of time.
I missed the security part of that question. So you can make them sign an NDA and all that, but are you really going to chase them across the Philippines over a piece of paper? Probably not. And you can use a marketplace like FreeUp that gets their ID. I like to get the ID of people if I'm not hiring them off FreeUp. But really the biggest way, yes, there's like LastPass is the world and stuff like that. But the number one way to really protect your business, like Josh said, is to build an actual relationship with your virtual assistant, connecting with them on social media, getting to know their family, getting to know what they care about, having them learn about you and what you care about. And I've had people I fired. I have people who quit on me, and they didn't want to hurt me. I didn't want to hurt them. And that's because I built the relationship. So all that other stuff is great. And maybe it makes you feel a little bit better, but there's no substitute for that relationship.
100%. So Alexander says, thanks. John says, good stuff. Thank you. Lots of thank yous. Abigail's asking, what's the difference between this and a service like Fiverr?
So Outsource School does not provide VAs or freelancers. We just provide education. If you're talking about the difference between FreeUp and Fiverr, Fiverr is more of a free-for-all where anyone can create an account there and offer services. It's a little bit more project-based, a little bit more the doers, where FreeUp has the VAs all the way up to the experts. FreeUp, it's very hard to get on the FreeUp platform. They only take 1% of all applicants they get, and they get about 2,000 to 3,000 applicants a week. Fiverr doesn't have that no turnover protection, to the best of my knowledge, and that I would put FreeUp customer service against any customer service out there. I'm biased. I built that from scratch, but those are just some of the differences. Obviously, Fiverr's bigger. They've been around longer. They're a public company, all of that.
The way I think of it is Fiverr is more for random tasks. Oh, I want a new logo. I want you to create this thing. I want you to build that for a low cost. And a VA is someone who would be more dedicated to you and like plugged into what you need on an ongoing basis. So that would be my answer there, my perspective. Samuel Klein says, Samuel, great to see you. Hiring is a huge investment of time. Finding the right candidate, filtering them, interviewing them, training them. What's the average time that you recommend to find and train somebody? And how does Outsource School help with that? Well, that's a great question and a great tee up for this.
So our interview that we teach is 20 to 40 minutes long, or the onboarding that we teach is 20 to 40 minutes long. So listen, there's no way to just snap your finger and just have a great VA and skip that process. What we've done is we've made it as short as we possibly can for the interviewing, for the onboarding, and you're going to get the exact systems and processes that we use. I just hired a VA last week. I put them through the CARE method. I put them through the SICK method. This is real stuff that we do and all our members do. Now, the training process really just comes down to whatever you're training them on. I don't know what you're training them on. It could be a day. It could be a week. It could be 2 months, depending on what it is. But what we do is we teach you how to make really good SOPs, and creating that SOP shouldn't take you too long using our system and process. And we teach you to value your time at the highest possible level during that training, because if it takes 2 weeks to train your VA, if you follow our process, it might take 2 weeks, but not take up 2 weeks of your time. It's mostly taking up their time, and then you can test them on it. So we've tried to break it down as short as we possibly can. There is going to be a little bit of investment. It's a short-term investment to get a lot of your hours back down the line, and that's the mentality you have to look at it. If you're like, oh, it would just be faster for me to do it myself, that's a very short-term mentality where over time you're going to lose a lot more hours, and if you just vested that small amount of time up front to get your hours back.
And do you guys offer any shortcuts in terms of the vetting process? Like, you put an ad out there, you wind up with hundreds of candidates, and it's hard to see who's good, who's bad. Any shortcuts that, in the Outsource School on that front?
Yeah, I mean, we teach you how to make a really good job posting. That's part of our thing there, and that helps target it. Like I mentioned, we have a great relationship with the people at FreeUp, and I know a lot of the VAs and freelancers on FreeUp. So if possible, I give my personal recommendations. Keep in mind, I don't know every VA schedule off the top of my head. I don't know who's free and who's not. But if that's not possible, we connect you with FreeUp. They take really good care of you. And so far, that's been going fantastic, and everyone likes it. And you don't have to use FreeUp. You can take all our stuff, make a job posting, go post it on Upwork, go post it wherever you want. And that's still going to save you a lot of time. But we want to just help our members however we can.
Yeah, and I think, you guys know I'm very sequential in the way I think. Like, I like to have a training that's step-by-step with swipes and deploys. And I wouldn't be recommending this if I didn't see that this is like very, very detailed, something you can plug right into and really, multiply your efficiency in terms of how you hire, how you train, how you onboard, how you manage this virtual talent. So great question, Samuel. Chris Haas asking, do you recommend against giving a web designer a monthly bonus, like $3 per site per month, if they're on retainer?
I don't recommend against it. I mean, how many sites are they making a month for that $3? I mean, the $3 is a no-brainer for me. And again, this is because this is different because I'm more talking about the VAs and the followers. When I'm dealing with the followers, I give them a bonus every 6 months and every end of the year. Some people do that 13th month where it's just at the end of the year. I like to divide it up so that they're always 6 months away from their next bonus, and they're not just getting their end of the year bonus and finding another client. And it's also motivating, and I use that to appreciation. For the web developer, you just have to think long-term, because are you going to be hiring 5 web developers and giving all of them the bonus? You don't want the situation where the bonuses go down over time, or you can't afford those bonuses over time. So you just have to come up with a structure that works for you, that's sustainable, that they're happy with. I would also suggest that you have an open and honest conversation with the web designer about that. And maybe I would go through a little bit of a trial period and a test period, make sure that they can do a good job even without that bonus incentive, and then use that bonus incentive to keep that relationship going strong ongoing.
Good answer. So Aaron Collette says, you guys are awesome. Thanks so much. Zahir says, this is the exact answer I was looking for. Thank you for your time and your knowledge. Andy's got to jump off, but he's looking forward to the recording. Nathan, you weren't lying when you said you talk fast because you crank through this stuff really, really quickly.
I'm like you. My brain just goes like step by step by step.
Crank through it, right? No need for fluff. John and I was saying, is FreeUp only for hourly VAs, or can you set a monthly fixed on FreeUp?
FreeUp's a marketplace. The VAs and the freelancers set their own rates. You can negotiate. You can agree to fixed price. You can agree to hourly. You can do fixed price projects. You can do monthly retainers. You can do all that.
Yep. So then let's see. Woodrow, you spoke today about VAs almost exclusively, but I'm more interested in how to manage the doers. Does the Outsource School cover any of that?
It will. For example, we're making a playbook right now on how to hire graphic designers, and we'll be making another one for video editors. So we will dive into that a little bit. And again, a lot of these processes still apply. Like it's a lot different hiring a follower than it is an expert, but there's a little bit less of a difference hiring a follower than there is a doer. So about 60 to 70% of the stuff you learn at Outsource School, you can apply to the doers right away. And if you do end up becoming a member, I'm more than happy to speak with you and make sure that you're using the right stuff that you should be. And we also are going to be coming out with those playbooks that are more specific, because once you get into like more creatives, like, yeah, you still need the fundamentals to interview and onboard a graphic designer, but there's also a certain way that we like to work with graphic designers that have worked for us, and a different way that we like working with video editors. So we want to teach our members those exact systems, how we use Trello, how we manage it, how we do due dates. And so only that part's a little bit different, but it's usually not like a 20-hour course to get you to learn how to do graphic designers. If you know the fundamentals, we give you a few different playbooks and tactics and stuff that you can implement to work with those better. Yeah,
good answer. So Bruce, who just signed up, is asking, I try to create a team and take 2% of total revenue, split it amongst the entire team, except the salespeople who are already on a percentage of program. Does that work? Have you ever seen that work, or is that a bad idea?
So my follow-up question to that is that instead of paying them hourly or fixed price, or is that on top? Because I would stay away from anything that's commission-based only. There's difference between like U.S. high-level commission-based sales. That's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people in the Philippines that live in a third world country that value stability.
Right.
Yeah, they value stability and what money's coming in. So trying to set up something that's only commission-based work usually doesn't work, and I would advise against it. And you're going to deal with a major turnover issue there, because it's not tough for someone to come in and say, hey, I guarantee you $7 an hour, and they're going to be out the door pretty quick.
I get the impression he's talking about give them their hourly wage and then take 2% of total company revenue and divide that amongst the entire team so that everybody's incentivized on the top line growth of the business.
Yeah. So my brain always works in like, what could possibly go wrong in that situation? And so what happens if your company is growing and you're hiring people, and maybe your company isn't growing as fast as you potentially need to hire people. So then that 2% starts getting split up among other people, but the people that were there originally are thinking, but the company's growing, why am I making less money? I could just see that getting a little bit complicated. I would stick to more of a traditional bonus program.
Got it. Good point. Or the other consideration there is your top line grows exponentially, but your profitability is actually negative, and you're paying out 2%. So if anything, a percentage of profit as opposed to revenue, if you wanted to do a bonus structure like that, would probably be my thinking.
Right.
Yeah. Good question though. I like the thought process about figuring out how to get the team incentivized as the company succeeds. So that's smart.
The other thing I'll add in is most people that are not entrepreneurs, like entrepreneurs value revenue and profit and all of that. Like other people just like understand bonuses. Like they don't want to focus on like revenue. Like that's for you to do as the entrepreneur. So I try to keep people away from that as much as possible and find a different metric, find like billed hours or clients or something else, you know?
Good point. So Alvin's saying, since you're recommending Philippines, but what if a Filipino and a Filipino negotiating for these terms? Do you find a VA that his shift will be at night and or the daytime? What are the disadvantages to hire someone in the United States, even if it's nighttime versus the Philippines?
Yeah, I think I understood that question. So the hiring, there are a lot of people in the Philippines that work U.S. time zones. The most common job in the Philippines is a call center, and that's working 9 to 5. At the same time, what I like to do with my VAs is create win-win situations. I don't necessarily need them to work 9 to 5 unless I really do, so I'm not going to force them to do it. And there's creative ways to go about that. Let's say you hire 2 VAs, and I did this at FreeUp. I would have one of them work morning, maybe from 3 a.m. to 2 p.m., somewhere in there. And then another one picks up and works the second half of the day. That way, no one has to just work throughout the night. And if you are going to hire them 9 to 5, which I had a few VAs that were 9 to 5, spend extra time up front on the onboarding. Hey, this is a 9 to 5 job. It's only 9 to 5. You can't come to me later and say, hey, this doesn't work for me. Are you 100% sure you can do it? Is there anything in your life that's going to come up that's going to prevent it? Have you done it before? Maybe they say, yeah, I've been working graveyard shift for the past 7 years. It's nothing new. So that's where you spend that extra time on the onboarding. But it's definitely possible. I mean, I've seen everything with FreeUp where VAs work throughout the night, they work throughout the day, it's split up. You can do hybrids where they work in the morning your time and then they're flexible for the other hours. I have that set up right now with my virtual assistant. It's all about creating that win-win and that making sure that they're 100% happy with it.
Good stuff. Yeah, and so I think this has been awesome. Nathan built an 8-figure business on a completely virtual team. He's sharing some of his best ideas and strategies on how to grow and scale your virtual team. If you're getting value out of today's session, like type a thanks or this is awesome, thanks Nathan, or something like that, just so he feels the love. And we got another question here from Samuel. So Samuel's saying, how do you go about hiring a VA with the skill that you're not an expert at? So how would you look for that position and how would you fill it?
Yeah, so it's kind of like an oxymoron. You can't hire a VA that you don't have a system and process to do it. So your 2 options are you either go to the doer and the expert, which is a slightly different hiring style, or you can hire an expert to teach you and build you the systems and processes and implement them with the VA. It sounds good in theory, much, much harder to do. And it also puts your business very much reliant on that expert. Like what if that expert builds your system, builds your process, you hire a VA, you train them, that expert goes on to different things and that VA quits on you. Maybe you understand the system, but it's gonna be a lot harder to replace. So really your options are get an expert to do it or learn the system process yourself, build it and get a VA in there.
Yeah, great point, right? You got to be clear on what you're trying to accomplish. You can't create a phantom expectation that can't be completed. So I think that's an important distinction. I don't know if you're seeing the comments, but tons of like, thanks, this is awesome. Really appreciate it. Thanks for connecting us. Excited to dive into the system. So that's really good. If you haven't yet, like all you have to do is go to outsourceschool.com or go to sevenfigureagency.com/outsourceschool. It's $750 and you get access to the training he's talking about. I think if you plan on doing any type of hiring in the next 12 to 24 months in your agency and you expect to grow from being just you to maybe a couple of people, this is a complete no-brainer. You're going to save that money. You're going to make that money back. And I wouldn't be recommending it to you guys as members if I didn't really think I'd gone through it myself and think that this provides a layer of additional resources that I don't have and that I wouldn't be able to give you directly. So I hope that makes sense. I hope that's clear.
Yeah, and I was just going to add, and don't forget, the value doesn't stop just when you buy it and you get the stuff now. We're going to be launching new courses, new playbooks, new SOPs for the next year, and you're going to get access to all that stuff.
Yeah. So John's asking, does Outsource School have an SOP for hiring PPC or SEO ads experts if we're ready to hire PPC?
We do not have that right now. Again, Outsource School is much more focused on the follower roles more than hiring the experts. But the cool thing is Connor and I know that we have 10 years of experience hiring VAs and freelancers and agencies, but we don't know everything in the world about hiring for every single skill set. So what we're going to do as we build up Outsource School is bring in experts like Josh, like other people that can come in and teach people how to hire for stuff that we don't know how to hire. And our members are going to get access to that as well. So although that's not out now, really every skill set that we can possibly think of, we're going to be trying to add some kind of SOP, some kind of system, some kind of process to Outsource School at some point going forward.
Good stuff. Abigail's asking, can you use a VA for customer service and or account management type work to handle calls and client relations?
Absolutely. I did that with FreeUp. If you talk to any of the customer service reps at FreeUp, Connor, my business partner, and I, we train them. We've created the system. We created the process. You can hop on the phone with them. They speak English at a very high level. They're rock stars. So, and we hired them from the FreeUp platform to work on the internal team at FreeUp. We use the exact same vetting process we teach at Outsource School. It can 100% be done.
Good stuff. Yep. I'm going through here and seeing if there's anything else that we missed. And you guys put a lot of questions in the Q&As. Danny's asking what your feelings are on Upwork, if you could speak to that at all.
I don't want to dive into like my old competitors and like start competitor bashing. That's not really my thing. I mean, Upwork's a huge company. They have a lot of people on it. If you're going for quantity, they're a lot bigger than FreeUp. If you're going for more pre-vetted, more quality, more protection, then the FreeUp is the route that I would go.
Got it. So Dan's asking on price, is it $997 minus the 25% for the first year, and then it goes to $997 each year thereafter?
Yeah, good question. So the truth is we don't know what year 2 is going to look like. It's going to cost either the same or less than you pay for this year. We haven't built that out yet, but all that will be coming soon. I mean, we only run business one way, and that's upfront and honest. So we're going to be figuring that out, and we'll probably have different options where if you renew early, you get an even bigger discount. So we'll bring that to you as soon as we possibly can, and we're going to make sure that it's fair and that it works for everyone. And most importantly, that you guys actually see the value in it and that there's value for continuing on going forward.
Yeah, good stuff. Great questions. I took a lot of great insights here. I would love to hear from you guys in comments. What were some of the key insights from today's session as it relates to hiring, as it relates to training, as it relates to managing? And Nathan, would it be possible for you just to like do a screen share of the course portal? Because it's really impressive the way that it's structured, and sometimes it's good to kind of see visually kind of what they're going to get.
Let me stop sharing my screen and let me see if I can pull that up.
So pop some of your insights in here, some of your takeaways. I'll say mine. I think one of the cool things that he shared on here was just the interviewing on Slack as opposed to expecting it to be a web-based communication. Think about, interviewing in the way that you're actually going to be communicating with these people day to day. I thought that was really cool.
There is a chance I'm not going to be able to pull this up. I was not prepared for that, but let me see if I can.
Let's do this. Let's not even sweat it. Guys, if you click on that link, the sevenfigureagency.com/outsource school, there's a whole document there that explains exactly what you get. Take my word for it. It's very detailed, and it really takes you through step by step how to figure out what things you're doing that aren't the most efficient, the things that play well for VAs, how to hire those VAs, how to post the job, how to ask the questions. It will really shortcut this process for you significantly.
Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can. Yeah, next time.
Okay. Good deal. I think that's it. Lots of great questions in here. Well, let's see. Woodrow says testing them once you have the SOP set up is one of his key insights. And don't just give them the SOP that's detailed, but never thought of testing them right after they've gone through it. So good stuff. Awesome. Nathan, thank you so much for sharing. I'm excited about getting these guys plugged into your outsource school, helping them tap into all of the amazing systems and procedures that you've put in place. Any final words as we wrap up here today?
No, I really appreciate you having me. If anyone has any questions, if I can help anyone in a way that has nothing to do with VAs, feel free to connect with me on social media. I'm pretty easy to contact. If you have any follow-up questions on Outsource School or anything, feel free to shoot me a message, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever. And I look forward to working with a lot of you. I mean, we want to just continue. The cool thing is once you have the membership, we just want to keep stacking value. And we didn't even talk about this SOP software that we're building that we're really excited about, that all our members will get access to as well. So we're excited for it, and we appreciate the support. And thanks again.
Good deal. And Nathan's in the Facebook group now, so if you want to tag him or thank him or ask him a question, you can hit him in the Seven Figure Agency members Facebook group.
Thanks, Josh.
All right, guys. Talk to you later. Thanks, Nathan.